stardust, so shine.
Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Labors of Love podcast, the Fatherhood series. We are here to inspire, uplift, and enlighten. Each episode, we will be hearing from fathers sharing their perspectives and experiences on all aspects of the fatherhood journey. This evening, I have the privilege of speaking with Quinton Bright. Quinton is a proud husband and father of 3. He works as a field sales consultant in the insurance industry and also serves as a staff sergeant in the United States Army Reserve. He graduated from Southern Connecticut State University with a Bachelor's Degree in Business Administration. He enjoys traveling and trying new restaurants. Quinton is also the co-host of the podcast Talk Opulence and a contributor for the blog site Bright Thoughts. He is also a member of the BlakStok Society that curates events for young professionals. Thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome. Welcome. Peace and blessings, family. And thank you for joining us for another edition of the Fatherhood series. I am so pleased to have the opportunity to speak with Quinton Bright. And we're just going to jump right into this conversation.
That sounds
So,
great.
Good. So, Quinton, prior to becoming a father yourself, what were some of the messages or what did you see around you growing up around pregnancy, labor, delivery?
Yes, I'm the oldest of 3 boys. My youngest brother is like 10 and a half years younger than me. So he was
Mm,
born as I was about to head to middle school.
wow.
I believe I was in 6th grade. So I was able to be a part of my mother's pregnancy. I just remember we kind of like walk on the eggshells. So I want to make sure she was good.
Mhm.
Um, she had a couple like mild health concerns.
Okay.
So we were very like aware of that, and whatever she needed, we were her little helpers. Me and my other brother Brandon. So whatever she needed, we were, we didn't let her pick anything up. Try to stay on it with our chores and things of that nature. I realized, it was something that changes her, like it drained her energy a bit, and yeah, like I remember being conflicted because like it was just me and Brandon for the longest because we were just 2 years apart.
Mm.
Found out we were gonna have a baby brother. We were like, why? Like how? Like this ain't supposed to happen.
Right.
As you get older, it's like, oh, okay, like I get it, like it happens.
Wow. But I think it's phenomenal that you had such a sense of awareness, even
Yeah,
at a young age, of kind of, what was changing with your mother and kind of what she needed and how to be able to support her in that. So that's amazing
yeah.
to have that on board.
I think it was I said she had all boys, like we're all mama's boys.
Mhm.
Um, so it's like the sun rose and set with her. And it was pretty clear. My dad was a very hard worker, provider, and it was like I may not be home often because I'm working, but like whatever your mother says is law. Like you respect your mother, love your mother. You got one mother, and that's what he expected, and that's how we were raised. So it's like it's funny because like you almost feel like you don't have a choice in the matter because of
Uh-huh.
how ingrained it is into you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
looking back, it was just pretty dope.
That's amazing. So how do you feel like that impacted you moving into your first child and your first pregnancy, labor, delivery experience?
I think for me, I was just like super open minded because with my baby brother, I did do a lot with him. Um, as far as like we joke saying like I pretty much raised him because I was the one at home all the time.
Mhm.
Even for college, I commuted to college. I still lived at the house to kind of help my mother out with my brothers. Um, so when I found out I was going to be a father at the young age of 21, it was kind of like went into like provider mode and
Okay.
just like try to take a step back. Um, it's funny. I always look back and wonder like what I could have done different because I
Mhm.
was so young. I was like I had to go to school, had to work, had to figure some stuff out. It was one of those transitional ages, if you will.
Yeah.
But I wanted to try to make my son's mother like feel comfortable in all of it. I didn't want her to feel like our lives were over because we
Mhm.
were having a kid so young. Um, and like it was young for us. Like obviously there's teenage pregnancies and whatnot, but
Mhm.
being that in your senior year of college, you got your whole life ahead of you. Everyone's speaking all these things into you. You get that pep talk don't get nobody pregnant in college.
Okay.
And then, so like looking back on, the support I had at home, I was like, you know what, like we could do this. Like I just wanted to, kind of like lock in and stay focused, and just draw on, my experience with my brother, the experience with my mom. Like I said, we're very, very close, and yeah. But this time it's like it's mine, so
Right, right.
it's like the adult switch got kicked up a notch.
Yeah, yeah. And I appreciate that. And I definitely appreciate that perspective of, taking that role seriously and like really stepping up and wanting to be the provider and be the support and look at it more as a joyous occasion as opposed to like, somewhat of a daunting task to be so young and to enter parenthood.
It's
So
funny you
you
say that
Mhm.
because like I guess if we're gonna give like a true male perspective,
Yeah.
um like when I found out I was gonna be a father, I felt like my I couldn't have a natural reaction. Like I said, when I said like a switch flipped, it was
Mhm.
like when she told me the news, I kind of like paused. It was like, how do you feel about this?
Mhm.
It was like however you feel, like I will support you 10,000%. It wasn't a like I didn't feel like one way or the other. That whatever you need me to do, like I'm prepared to do. I'll support you, like whichever way we go with this. Um, and I wanted to kind of gauge her reaction because I didn't want her to be robbed of that moment, robbed of her choice, robbed of
Mhm.
whatever. Because to me, I felt like that was like very important, and it was like, yo, like I want to keep it, and I was like, that's amazing, like I'm excited, but I didn't want my initial reaction to sway her one way or the other.
Yeah.
To me, that was very important
Wow.
because if you're going to have, what I mean, my first child, like I'd like you to want to have it, not because you're doing something that you think is what I want. So like I kind of like relied on her emotional response because I wanted to support her in that. And then once what I mean, she made the decision, it was like, all right, now it's go time.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Wow, wow. And again, I appreciate that perspective. And like you said, being on the other side of that, right? It's like you got this thing to share and you don't know what people's reactions are going to be and especially your mate in this experience. So, I think how you were mindful of the impact of your response and then acted accordingly. That's impressive. I appreciate that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you have a few experiences to that you had. So you can not so much compare, but there are, I'm sure, differences in kind of how you went about things with each of the pregnancies. So what were some of the things that kind of stand out around those differences? Like, did the places change? I know traditionally we have babies in hospitals. Did you all consider, a non-hospital birth? Was that on the table? Any part of the discussion?
Yes, for the third one, baby girl, she's 10 months now. We had a whole different perspective. I guess give a little background. Like I have
Mhm.
3 children. I have one in college with my son's mother, married, and I have 2 daughters with my wife. Um, Completely different experiences. My
Mhm.
wife, for the second child, she was kind of like more intentional with like what she wanted and what she didn't want. We did look into the idea of a birthing center. We did look into the idea of a at-home water birth. There were just so many different factors that kind of played into it. And she was like really intentional about having like a birth plan. Um, a cousin of mine, her name is Jessica. She's actually a doula, so she actually kind of
Okay.
consulted us. And she was actually there the day my daughter was born, which was very, very helpful because of the things that happened like with that delivery. But I think like as I got older, like I knew more. It's like I'm subscribed to mommy blogs. Like
Okay.
every week, I'm getting an update. Like, oh, this week she's the size of a plum. You know what I mean? This month she's the size of a grapefruit, kind of a thing. Like I would read them like all the time, just to kind of like sharing the experience and the journey and see where I can support you
Wow.
know my wife in that matter. So I definitely think that as time went on, because like I said, my oldest he just turned 12.
Mhm.
and then my youngest is 10 months. So like, there's a big age gap as far as the children, but there's also a big age gap as far as my age and my level of maturity as it surrounds this, as well as my perspective overall. Just all the things I've seen watching, like what these women did to bring my children into this world. Like there's nothing like it, and like I said, whatever direction they want to go in, it's like who am I not to support them in that vision?
Wow. Yes, 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 yes. So you mentioned some things as far as like the preparation piece.
Mhm.
Did you do like childbirth classes? Was there any additional education around preparing uh, for the delivery of your children?
Yes, I would say I didn't do like I think for the first one we definitely did like one or two childbirth classes. Then like between school and everything, it was like, all right, we need to hit YouTube or
Okay.
something. When it came to Bailey, which is my oldest daughter, we ordered a disc set called Hypno Babies.
Okay.
Me and my wife, we did that. We were listening to the sound and looking at the movements and watching like the videos and stuff that came with it in preparation for like breathing treatments. She did want to do it like the in class like training, if you will, but like my work schedule was so crazy and I wasn't able to kind of accommodate that schedule, which is it was I guess it was a little difficult, but I want to try to support her in some way. So like we bought the disc set. I tried to do that. And then with Everly, which is our youngest, we didn't do any classes. More again YouTube videos, and then
Mhm.
having the resource of my cousin who's a doula. So it was a little
Very
different this time.
excellent, excellent. So how did you feel like did that help as far as being prepared or, with getting the updates and having information on board? Did that add value to from a fatherhood perspective, from a father's perspective of not physically going through it, but
Mhm.
did it add value to your ability to support or what to expect in the space of being in the room at the hospital during the time of labor and delivery?
I'll be honest. I don't think it did as much for me
Okay.
personally. Um, I think I'm a very like serious person. Like when I'm going through certain stuff, especially things that relate to my family and my children.
Yeah.
Well, I was locked in. It's like there's not too much of video is going to tell me how to prepare for this or that. But again, back to what I said before, like it wasn't about me. It was
Mm,
about supporting them and like what they wanted. Um, and like I wasn't, and I also want to paint a very clear picture too. I wasn't always like 100% on board. Like I had to do my own education. It's like, okay, what's the point of this? And I wanted to communicate like, okay, you find value in this, or you just want to try it out. It was
mhm.
like who am I to tell you no?
Yeah.
And like my experience, my personal experience, like I don't want to rob people of their experiences either, if that makes sense. So
It
like
does.
that was very important for like with my wife because like I had my son already, and it was like, but this is your first child that you're about to birth. So it's like I'm not about to rob you of your first experience as a mother because like that's not cool, and you may not respond to it the same way I am because like when I'm locked in, I'm locked in. Like
Mhm.
it could be my mom, it could be her mom, it could be whoever. Like when Kenny was born, the first one, I was like I don't want to hear anything like whatever she needs, like she gets it.
Mhm.
I don't need a whole bunch of people in the room. It's like this is a me and her thing. I know we're young, but we got this. I appreciate the advice. We didn't ask for it. Like I was like that person. Like I was like bring on a confrontation. And like looking
And
back, it was
yeah,
more difficult than it had to be. But then it was like I was like in like I said, I was in a switch went off. I was in like defense mode, like protector mode. It's like,
protection.
and it's like we're I know people look at us like babies, but like when you're in that transitional phase, like 21, 22, you about to graduate, trying to figure it out. I was like, oh, like what are y'all gonna do? It's like, well, I'm gonna get this degree. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I'll be working, and we're gonna take care of this baby. Like I'm not like there is no other option.
Right,
So like it
right.
was like I said, my response to it. Sometimes I laugh, like looking back at it, because sometimes like you can be strong and wrong. But like honestly, I wouldn't. There's not too much I would change.
Yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
I learned
And
from all of it. Made me who I am.
wow. And that's a like, it sounds like you were truly an advocate for her in this space.
Yeah,
like, to make sure that, again, her needs were met, whatever her wishes were, wasn't a whole lot of outside chatter, because I know that sometimes can definitely have a negative effect when you all have come to the decisions that you're making, and you got people who are, your support or family, with that, contradictory kind of chatter on the outside, like, why are you doing this, or you should be doing that, and you should be doing,
yeah,
but to have that, that person who's clear in the space, especially when your mate is focused on, this process, it's significant to have an advocate like that in the space. So I appreciate that flip of the switch, and like going in. And another thing that you brought up that definitely resonated with me is like that whole experience of, with your wife, this being her first experience.
hmm
And for you, it was your second child, but knowing like there's this newness, and there's things that you want, there's things you want to buy for the baby, there's things that you want to do that are like extra, that
yeah,
you realize after the first pregnancy, like, you don't need all that. But
yeah, exactly.
I appreciate the awareness again of allowing them to have their moments, right? Like, not having, impacting the newness of that moment for her. So
Mhm.
I great point. And just to
Yeah,
those, listening, as far as being in similar spaces of it not being your first time and it being the other person's first time, and having that awareness. I think that's a very key point. So as far as like your experiences as a whole, what were some of the things that kind of stood out, or, the hindsight 2020 kind of feel of, had I known this, I would have done that? Do you have any of those sorts of stories, in comparison to the pregnancy, to all three?
yeah. I think like big time. Like I could talk about my first time like a lot because I was young. I was still in school. I was working. I'm in a fraternity. I was actually the president of my chapter at the time.
Okay.
And I was in student government as well. So like, I was a very busy social person. Um, and I wasn't home as much as I can say it comfortably now, like as much as I should have been.
Yeah.
So I was like, I gotta handle my affairs and do what I gotta do because then it's like then it's us. And then sometimes like, oh, why can't you just come home? So then I think I came home a couple times, and I was like what are we doing? It's like we're just sitting in the house. Like you just want me home, just looking at you. And she was like, yes. And young me, like putting all this pressure on myself, I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense. It's like you know how I am. Like I've been the same way. Like kind of like staying firm on like who I am to an extent. Because like I thought I was big on like this not changing us, like who we are to an extent. But obviously certain things have to change. And where I kind of gave myself credit for like doing things good in some manner, there's a lot of things I could have done better. I could have been home. I could have been, made it a priority to, do that. But at the end of the day, I still had to. It was very important for me to finish school. It was very important to work. You know what I mean? It was very important to close out my professional obligations, whether it be with my fraternity, within student government, within other leadership positions I had, and and I could see now, like in hindsight, that it looked like my family wasn't my number one priority, even though that was my motivation for going through all of it. And I think that was kind of like the source of like, the reason why that relationship didn't work out. That coupled with she was from Maryland and we were in Connecticut because we went to college in Connecticut.
Mhm.
So she didn't have the family support, what I mean, that she would have had if she was back home. So when
Yeah.
she ultimately, left and went back home, dealing with, postpartum and things like that,
Mhm.
which I'm able to identify now. I didn't know it at the time. It definitely um, was at the forefront of my mind once I found out my wife was pregnant. It was like, okay, because we were living in Maryland when she was pregnant, and I was like, we got to move back to Connecticut once baby girl's born. And she's like, no, I know you moved down here to be closer to your son. And I was like, yeah, I know too, but like for the sake of you and us, like I already knew. It was like I was put in this weird position where it's like you're down here for your son, but you're about to have a baby girl. You know what I mean? With the woman you love, you guys are planning your wedding. Like you need to you got to go back. And it was a very very tough decision to make.
Mhm.
Um, but it just made the most sense based on what I went through before. And so I ended up moving back to Connecticut, and she thanked me. She had a lot of support from her mom and her sisters back up this way. And it was just one of those moments where if I didn't go through what I went through when I was, 21, like through that whole heartbreaking situation, a lot of joy sprinkled in there, but ultimately it's like I don't want a repeat of that. So I had
Mhm.
to be like super intentional with that aspect. And then I was home all the time. Like I was I was always home.
Mhm.
Because like she was born in Maryland. So like and being in Maryland, like I was only there for my son. Like I had a couple friends here and there, but I was able to be more locked in. I wasn't in college. I didn't have distractions. Like I didn't create distractions. It was like work home, work home.
Mhm.
So it's like she kind of got the better version of me based on what I lacked the first time around, and was able to help me apply a different level of focus that I didn't know I had.
Wow. Yes. Oh, I appreciate this conversation so much. You just don't know. But just the awareness of the importance of presence and just like the whole like we just gonna sit here. Yeah.
Yeah, like you gotta grow up. Sometimes it's like well, what do you want? Like I be out here. Like you met me, I was out here. Like now you want me just home making tea? Like what's up?
Yeah.
It's like you sleep.
So,
I'm
oh,
watching
wow.
you sitting here watching you sleep. But then
Mhm.
like honestly, like the second time though, it's like I found a lot of beauty in those moments though. Like just to be able to the idea of being in the house, the idea of her feeling peace and protected, knowing I'm home. She may not need anything, but if she does, she knows I'm right there.
Oh,
Rather than being a phone call away, like I'm like physically right here. And a lot of people like no one taught me that. No one taught me like how important that was. I had to like live it, mess up at it, and then realize the impact of it. Because like after me and my son's mother broke up, I went into like a very dark place because I felt like I
mm,
failed at the idea of having my first family, and it took a lot of like self reflection, a lot of introspective moments, therapy, and like I have a phenomenal support system that helped build me back up and allowed me to kind of like acknowledge my mistakes, acknowledge these are some things you might have did well. Like you understand you had great intentions, but you got to do better. So like knowing that and like where I want to be, like it's funny because like based on like who you are,
mhm,
it's like who you are and who you want to be. It's like
mm,
I'm a dad, right? But I want to be a good dad. Like I'm a husband, but I want to be a good husband. So it's like sometimes the lessons you learn come from outside of your own personal school of thought. You could draw an experience, but sometimes like you legit just have to listen. It may not make sense to you, but you got to think about like the big picture. If it makes sense to her, if it brings her comfort, like she give you the greatest gift of all by birthing your babies, carrying your babies. Like, what is it? What does it cost for you to bring your ass home?
right.
Right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you could cuss on
It's okay, it's alright.
this.
We will on today.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
but no, it's definitely just valuable information, and your perspective is refreshing, and I appreciate being to witness your growth, right? Like,
yeah.
from your story, just understanding that where you were
Mhm.
and where you are and all it took to get to where you are and then the change in the perspective because we could continue to do the same things but to learn
Exactly.
from that and to apply something different and see it actually make a difference. I think it's valuable when we can speak from wisdom and our own personal experiences when someone might be listening who's going through a similar thing, and it might just give them an idea of maybe I could do something different, maybe I can tweak my perspective a little bit and come at this in a different way. So I think that it's extremely valuable. Time flies so fast. I just want to make sure I'm getting everything that
Yeah, of
needs to be
course.
gotten. But are there any kind of highlight reels from the fatherhood perspective, like just moments or experiences that just epitomize this father of dad the role of dad, like, with your
Yeah.
children?
Yeah, I would say, I think the challenge of, trying to maintain a personal connection with each kid, um, is like my son kind of being raised as an only child in Maryland. My
Mhm,
daughter, before her younger sister was born, was kind of being raised as the only child. So when I got them together, um, they both didn't know how to act to an extent, as far as like splitting attention with dad, because I would do one-on-one trips with Kenny, but when I go to Maryland, but when I bring him up here, it's like, he's used to having all my attention, but now I'm in his house, I have his wife, I have your sisters. It's like, but still wanting to give that one-on-one attention.
Mhm.
And just having that communication, having those talks, and having those moments. My biggest fear was like the kids wouldn't get along, but like as time went on, like they're great together. Like they love each other. Like one's a preteen, so he acts like his attitude, but he gets so excited when he's around his sisters. Same thing with my daughter. She's super excited when she sees him.
Yeah.
They FaceTime, hang out, and
Mhm.
like they even play with each other. Like they'll like Kenny will play with her and her toys and whatnot. Bailey will just sit there and watch him play video games, give him his space. And like when they're all together under one roof, it's like life is good. Like
Yeah.
it's like amazing. And to be able to, I guess, grow in life, like to be able to even have this house. Like I never thought of that house. It wasn't even on my radar. But like
Mhm.
having kids and having them have their own space, have a nice backyard, and watching them play in the backyard, it's like it's like a moment. It's like
Yeah.
you just watching them and you just smiling, you just happy. It's like, the sun is shining on you literally. And it's just a dope moment. And I just want to remain consistent. Like I don't want anyone to be able to paint a picture of what kind of father I was, what I mean, except for my kids. Like if someone
Mhm.
talks crazy about me, it's like, my dad was there. You're
Yeah.
bugging. It's like so like don't give people the opportunity. And I just think it's really important.
Yes, yes, yes. No, that is so beautiful. And just, yeah, as they grow up, I got three too. So I understand just the whole dynamics and personalities and all
Mhm.
of those things. But yeah, it warms my heart when they click and they find the things that, they enjoy doing together, but they keep their individuality. So
Exactly.
it's a beautiful thing. So before you go, I definitely want people to know a lot, what you have a lot going on. So I want them to know about what you have going on, your podcast, how they can get in touch with you. So if you could share that, I would greatly appreciate it.
Of course. So on Instagram, my name is family_guy_q. You can follow me. My page is on private, but I normally approve most people, as long as it's not a scam or something like that. I gotta screen it a little bit. 'Cause my
Mhm.
pictures are up there. But I'm a part of a podcast called Talk Opulence. We're available on most podcast streaming platforms, such as Apple, Spotify. Um, Honestly, if you just Google Talk Opulence podcast, like it's gonna pop up. We have 25 episodes. It's me and my brother from college, Rick. So we've been at it for a little over a year now. It's been doing pretty well. So hoping to keep delivering more content with that. Also part of an organization with some friends from college called BlakStok Society. That's BlakStok Society. And BlakStok Society, we're on Instagram as well. We curate events for young professionals. We took a couple years off because of the pandemic, but our first event is coming up next Thursday, April 14th at Vibes on Orange, which is downtown New Haven, 99 Orange Street. Definitely check us out. If you do a quick search for, BlakStok Happy Hour in New Haven on Eventbrite, it should pop up. RSVP for a chance to win some free giveaways. Also, a contributor to a blog site I started a couple years ago called Bright Thoughts. It's brightthoughts.net. There's a couple think pieces, some poetry, some of my photography as well. I'm meaning to get back into it. I feel like this is the year I will, but definitely check that out.
Nice, nice, nice. And we're going to make sure that we put all of that information in the description and the comments so people can click on it and not try to figure out how to spell anything or anything like that. We're going to get you right to it with the link.
Definitely.
But I absolutely enjoyed this conversation and I truly appreciate you making time to speak with me and our viewers and just so much valuable information and insight from your story.
No, definitely. I appreciate you reaching out, and honestly, platforms like this, discussion like this are more needed because you don't know until you have a conversation about it. And I think the best way to do that is to have these talks to get other people's perspective and to yeah. And honestly, a lot of black men, I feel like they don't know that people care about their perspective.
Mhm.
A lot of times, like, hey, like no one's asking you, like, hey, this has nothing to do with you, even though
Mhm.
it has a lot to do with
Very
us.
much so.
And
Very much.
so the fact that you acknowledge that and have platform to create awareness and to kind of shed a light on that, I think is very powerful and definitely much needed.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I do. And in addition to the information, just the visual of just seeing Black men who are embracing that role of father and doing the things that you're doing, it's impactful. So for those of you watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Please share, 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 because again, we don't know what we don't know. Somebody needs to hear this, and we need to share that with them. So, share, share, share. Click on the links, get in touch. Let's get connected. Let's build community. That's also important. And we appreciate you tuning in. See you all next week. Peace and blessings, family.